Tie. Rewritten vows. I don't give a damn what Sherry or her slave runner daddy thinks. I am about to make a career move, and if daddy's girl, Sherry, doesn't like it, we can make a domestic change, such as me changing my address and leaving her ass. I mean, yeah, I had an affair or two and allegedly had a child with another woman within my marriage. At least that is the only one Sherry knew about, but far from the only one I am accused of. As a matter of fact, Brad's offer could not have come at a better time, because quiet as I am trying to keep it kept, a chick named Daria is saying she had my baby 2 months ago, and had taken out child support papers, and surely it would not go unnoticed through human resources, plus working with Brad and Tierney doing BBLs, Brazilian butt lifts, on the black market will be quite profitable, and Sherry is too dumb to realize if she would only support this dream I could keep her an even higher maintenance life than she already lived. But the night of the dinner party she acted all cool with Tierney, until we were in the car and I told her about my new endeavor. I now remember how on our wedding day, I should have run far from that chapel when it was her turn to repeat love, honor, and obey. She kept flubbing enough to skip obey, but damn it, she was so beautiful, I just wanted her. I wanted her to get me in with her dad's car dealership like she dangled under my nose like a carrot tempting a rabbit. I mean, I have grown to love her, but now that I am 3 weeks away from putting in my notice, she suddenly begins acting sneaky and saying what she has really wanted to say to me since Erin got pregnant. But to her credit, Sherry not once ran to her family with the situation, and thanks to my grandma sending Erin away, no mention of it was made, not because she was protecting me, she was embarrassed. She could no way, shape, or form let her family know that she actually had not only been cheated on, but also thrown into the role of stepmom. However, since the situation was handled on the quiet level, even then Sherry wouldn't let it go. Then to throw up at me that she aborted our baby on the strength of things Erin told her about me. All I can say is this is what happens when women get together and think they have a bond, when they don't even know each other from a can of Sherwin-Williams. Sherry is not ready for a baby, and I for one damn sure have no time for that. If I had, then I would be in the lives of the secret ones I already allegedly have. But truth be told, I already knew Brad from a few months back from a bachelor party for our friend Gavin, and when he mentioned where he lived and his newly opened business, and that he was looking for a third partner in a lucrative body enhancement business, and Gavin had told him about my marketing skills, needless to say with my situation at the time, I jumped at it, faster than I jumped the broom with Sherry's ass nearly 8 years ago. So Brad and I came up with this little scheme to invite my parents, Sherry, and me to an impromptu block dinner party, and I already knew it was gonna be a short night once Mrs.AddiLee made the guest list. What I didn't know was through her job as a dental hygienist, Sherry already knew Tierney. I thought that was gonna work in my favor, for when I told Sherry of my plans, wrong. She shot me down as soon as I mentioned leaving her dad's car dealership. I guess she is really gonna flip when she gets our bank statement showing I had withdrawn $17,000 out to invest in the new business, but she would only complain to me, because as I once said, she is too embarrassed to go to her family about it. They already think I married her for her money. They are wrong. Sherry has no money. I married her for her father's money. And trust, she hints at that fact so damn much. Brad and Tierney's, the body beautiful, is just what I need to not only get from beneath my wife's always telling me what to do with money that I made on commission from her family's car dealership, and since Brad and Tierney understand the situation with the impending child support garnishing of my wages, which would not only blow me out of the water, my marriage, but most important my job, so my ass is jumping ship while the Titanic is still at full sail.
Tierney, return to potluck. This morning my ass woke up with nothing but charity and goodness in my heart, and my first order of business was to take the 12-course Beverly Hillbillies meal Mrs.AddiLee prepared and tried to ptomaine poison my dinner guest with. Down to Greater Greer missionary soup kitchen pots, pans, knives, forks and spoons as if I didn't have my own silverware. I then proceeded to go to the nearest Target and bought a 9-piece pot and pan set, a place setting for 4 and plates with gold trimming with the glasses and silverware to match. I then looked in my phone and found Regina Harris's phone number. Hello. Regina. This is Tierney. Listen, I want to stop by to see you and drop off Mrs.AddiLee a few things, actually, a peace offering. The caterers must have packed her things and well. I lied. Regina howled. Girl, I know you threw that stuff away after the way my mom-in-law behaved. I couldn't help but snicker. Be there in 10 minutes. I drove into the cul-de-sac. I noticed my assistant, Marla, was parked beneath the awning of the home office. All clients were instructed to use the circular and enter through the rear of the house. The last thing we need is extra attention being paid. It is already a risk having Ty working for us, but I never question Brad. Besides, if Ty is smart, he will make a lot of money. But Ty is the type who could be either an asset or a liability. And if he had a drop of his granny's blood, then could run his mouth just as much, and that could be a problem. However, a bigger problem is his libido, according to Sherry. He is a dog, and according to Brad, it's true. I gathered the items I had purchased for Mrs.AddiLee, hoping that Regina was home alone due to Greg being at his physical therapy session. Hopefully Mrs.AddiLee was out somewhere getting her broom finely tuned. But as soon as I rang the doorbell, she snatched it open, and her knockoff Giorgio of Beverly Hillbillies reeked so loudly I choked. She stood staring and chewing some type of gum that obviously had been in the bottom of her oversized bag. I bet that shit tasted like Tussie deodorant and purse dirt. Gina, your neighbor is here. Without my damn pots and pans. She croaked. I wanted to run up behind her and drop kick that hump on her back with my stilettos. But they were new, and this relic of Lot's wife with her salty ass was ancient, and would probably melt right off my feet. I stood with the packages until Regina came and helped me with them. Hey, let me help you with this, Ms. AddiLee knows better. Regina sheepishly offered. If she knew better, she would do better. I tried to jokingly add. Come into the kitchen and have a drink. All I have on ice is soda. Regina said. I laughed. Well, damn right. It's too early for anything else. Regina gave me a snobby up and down smirk, letting me know she drinks Uniseed beverages on the quiet. And hell with a mother-in-law like Mrs.AddiLee, I would sneak a snip each now and then. We continued into the kitchen. I took in the spotless home with much observation. Enough to know that Greg and Regina lived with Mrs.AddiLee, whereas initially, I had thought it was the other way around. Damn, those Harris men have never owned a home once in their lives. Now I see why Regina bites her tongue a lot when Mrs.AddiLee scolds Greg. Or why Ty is a milquetoast when it came to Sherry's dad. They were not stupid. They knew who held the titles. And it wasn't Greg or Ty. Mrs.AddiLee stood off to the corner whispering something into the phone, asking about someone named Craig Gist. I figured this was a possible boy toy or some old geezer she met at the old family home luncheon. As soon as I sat down, Regina handed me a glass of ice and a Dr. Pepper. Before could even pop the can open, Mrs.AddiLee snaked her twig-like finger and did it for me. Thank you. I pasted a fake smile on, fake as the one plastered all over Regina's face. No thanks needed. One of your fake nails may have popped off and I would have plumb threw up. She sneered. Regina sat sucking on a piece of ice, so as to not have to say anything. My nails are real. I have them manicured each which makes them too healthy to break from opening a can. I sweetly stated. Okay, I just figured you only drank imported beer and wine. Never took you for the soda type. And where are my pots and pans? And I know there should be plenty of leftovers in them. She crossed her arms as she spoke. I damn near choked. Leftovers. You mean you wanted the eaten portions back? I burst out laughing. Regina only smiled and slurped on another piece of ice before explaining. Each meal Ms.AddiLee brings, well, the leftovers are returned with the dishes the next day, to be frozen for the next. She warbled. By this time, I gotta go. Well, the catering staff disposed of everything, so I was cut off. Gina already told me the whole thing. Those pots and pans were not cheap, Mrs.AddiLee said, gathering them up to put into the pantry, or so I thought. Knowing her, she could be throwing them into the trash. I stood up. Well, I have to go, Regina. I have a client coming soon. Goodbye, Mrs.AddiLee. Sorry about the cookware. I hope you enjoy this one. She waved me off once again, on the phone talking to whomever it was who gave her the info on this Craig Gist guy. Probably trying to use her new cookware as a means to reel him in by some down-home cooking. KFC that she tries to pass as her own. This woman is just horrible for no reason. I laughed my ass all the way to my car and the 45-second drive to my own home. I got inside and was powering on my PC, and what to my eyes did appear? I had been on Craigslist earlier that morning looking for some gym equipment, so it flashed a few notices. Then I looked through the site, just killing time when I saw it. For sale, 2 sets of Anchor Hawking cookware. Still in the box. Serious buyers only $350.
Regina. A drunk woman is a woman scorned. The worst thing about going out to dinner with a messy-ass mother-in-law and a drunken, scorned ex-wife of your new neighbor. Now as the morning sun disrespects my hangover, Greg is perched up on 4 pillows to ease his chronic and sometime inability to walk without a walker or cane. He snored so loud he sounded as if he was doing an impression of a chainsaw. I got up only to stumble into the kitchen, and before I could even begin to a cup of strong black coffee, I heard the voices of my mother-in-law and her 2 granny project reporters, Ms. Maddie and Ms. Laverne. Oh, trust News Channel 7 and Amy would had nothing on these 2 days of our lives graduates. Mrs.AddiLee was nursing on a 24. Lee was her very own Annette Estes. Ms. Maddie was urging, "Addie, you gotta sip on this Steel Reserve beer to thar the hair off the dog. And here you go, Gina." All of a sudden I heard the door to the guest room open. I thought maybe it was Ty, who stayed over whenever he and his black Scarlett O'Hara wannabe wife, Sherry. But you could hear a rat piss on cotton when Phaedra entered the kitchen. Now being this is Ms. AddiLee's house, I couldn't say shit. But no female other than my mother-in-law was allowed to sleep beneath the same roof as my husband. Well, Sherry, and I wasn't too swift on that. She didn't make a pass at Greg. What she did was worse. She bonded with him. She was treated like a daughter by him. Despite being our son's wife, she already had a wealthy daddy who spoiled her. Now Greg is always chastising Ty whenever Sherry feels like being the belle of the county of Greer, South Carolina. But here was this scorned hungover ex-wife of our neighbor, whose current wife kind of had a bitch vibe that I did not like and wanted no part of. But sooner than later, I was like the 5 heartbeats in the middle. "Phaedra, you want a beer to calm that hangovers? Girl, you spilt the beans on Tierney last night, damn. She TKO'd your marriage." Ms. Laverne purred venom and glee chuckles. Phaedra, still feeling vengeful and hungover, spewed liquid courage and ignorance that Ms. Laverne was actually married to Tierney's uncle Benji. Her real name is not even Tierney, it is Tina Renee, and she was always known for zeroing her hoe tactics on married men, and Brad was dumb enough to get stuck with her. She has screwed her way through Anchor Swan Electronics, yet the men before my stupid-ass ex-husband just kept her around long enough to realize she was a gold digger with an agenda to deflate as many hearts and pockets possible. What she didn't realize at the time how wealthy Brad and I were, sharing a joint bank account, and we also has separate accounts. Well, when he was cheating and trying to impress her, his bank account was dwindling, and when he began dabbling in our joint account, disrespecting me by giving this chick his bank card from the joint account, she got greedy, and decided Brad was the prize. She took it upon herself to out their affair to me. Phaedra slurred. Ms. Maddie laughed, egging Phaedra on and on. It was too late for me to stop Ms. AddiLee from pressing send to her Facebook news feed tagging Tierney, as her voice spewed out a drunk recipe for an ass whipping from Tierney sooner or later, and judging from the notifications pinging on Ms. AddiLee's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and the screenshots I got from our landscaper, Tierney was gonna have these old church hose asses in the fire, and I had something that could assure my ass doesn't burn with them. Too late did I learn. Tierney already had the upper hand on my plan.
Tierney. I got receipts, baby. Deacon D. Davis. His name is actually Daniel Abraham, but trust after his greedy younger brother, Chosen Davis, Sr. stole the family wealth away from him. D stands for drunken ass, and after I noticed how close he was to AddiLee's old cobweb crotchet ass, I began having lunch each time he was due to cut our lawn. I began inviting him to lunch every now and again. Soon his appetite for food paled greatly in comparison to his appetite for a stiff drink, which I gladly yet warned him of talking about the liquidation bonus. The more he drank, the more he dogged everyone, including Mrs.AddiLee. One day he was pissed about her spending all his paycheck at Harrah's Casino in North Carolina. She sends nudes when she wanna spend money. I send IT, hoping she won't send any more pictures. He half laughed, half slurred. I damn near choked on my non-alcoholic daiquiri. You wanna see? Sent them to my rich-ass thief brother, and he reported me to Verizon, bastard. I wanted to see them, but declined. I had plans for whatever pics she sent him. No, you can keep them. I'm trying to kill the visual thought. I laughed. You not stuck up, bitchy, or up-close ugly like AddiLee and Regina said, he snickered. I didn't. I only offered to freshen his drink. Yeah, I am none of those, but this is your last day on this job, I said to myself, as I turned to the bar and crushed up 2 10-milligram Lortab and proceeded to dissolve them fully into his now double shot of bourbon. What the hell? I pricked a pinhole into a Unisom sleep gel into it for good measure to my plan. Soon after, he was passed out drunk, head 9 and the kitchen table, which is how Brad found him, and proceeded to fire him. I stayed hidden in order to perfect my horrified reaction. All the while I made up an OnlyFans page. AddiLee is at Silver Cougar Thoughts It Up. I posted each and every pic of this old sister flute wannabe Bible-thumping tramp, plus a damn video or two. Grey Granny got crazy for the cougar world, all the while tagging Regina as her manager and account holder. Now that is how you do stuck up, bitchy. Up close and ugly. Other than that relic sister flute wannabe next door.
Ms. Mrs.AddiLee Harris. This is your life. I want to know how and when AddiLee got so forthright and holier than her drawers back in the day. Just like my niece, who is actually named Tenna Renee and is now called Tierney. Ask me, the name suits her right, because that is exactly what she is to Phaedra, who ran her drunk mouth so mud and so badly about her ex-husband's new and permanent bride. If Brad has any sense to go with all the dollars they have stashed from here to Wakanda. Phaedra also left out the fact that although Tierney could care less if Phaedra or those kids lived on Skid Row, or if those twins, Dominica or Chilean, got through college, but Brad wanted those girls to be something their mom wasn't, and that was educated beyond being a high school graduate. He wanted intelligent girls, not professional husband hunting, which was really a reflection of how he secretly become to see Tierney as a graduate with honors from Gold Digging 101. But he couldn't ignore the fact that just like he, himself, Tierney loved living the good life, so he tried to overlook her spending. After all, he knew all along that he created a monster when he got caught slipping while married to Phaedra, and Tierney decided to let Phaedra know exactly where and when she could witness that Brad was her man. And to her credit, Phaedra stepped aside, but not before securing hers and their 5 kids' future, but cried 3 months straight like a damn Kennedy wife. But even as ratchet as those 2 Mrs. Andersons were, they have nothing on AddiLee wannabe Harris. She was no more married to Willard Harris than I am to Barack Obama. Yes, her son was a Harris, as was his son, but William Harris had a whole other wife and 7 kids to prove it. William Gregory Greg Harris is the product of a few nightstands. However, she is legally a Dylan Wilson. However, the thing was, Ty has no idea, since Papa Will's wife Emma had died when he was a toddler, and hence never felt strange about his grandparents living in separate homes. He did remember always thinking of his grandparents as fire and brimstone towards each other. As for his uncles and aunts, there was quite a bit of age difference between his dad and siblings, yet they were a close-knit family, despite the children's disdain for AddiLee. I married Tierney's uncle Benjamin Pickpocket Broadney in 1972, a few years before Dylan became AddiLee, or AddiLee as she pronounces it. Either way, TREMP still spells tramp, and that is what AddiLee was, and still Loki is. Hell, Will is allegedly not Greg's dad, and Will went to his grave hearing this, but in life he loved and adored Greg, and felt that being with AddiLee was just the burden he would just have to bear after losing his first marriage, due in part to AddiLee becoming pregnant. He felt his children were all he had left in the world, especially his youngest Greg, despite the nature in which he was conceived. Not more than a year after divorcing, his first wife Emma was stricken with cancer, and it was already stage 4 breast cancer, and as she lay sick, she and Will became friends again. And Will would often lie to AddiLee and say he was doing long hours at his job at Homelight, when secretly he would take Emma to her oncologist appointments. And when nothing could be done but make her comfortable in her last days, he truly contemplated taking her into the home he shared with AddiLee. He would hire nurses. Yet he realized that soon after Greg was born, AddiLee became one of the naggingest, aggravating, and incredibly rude bitch he had been warned about. So he got the kids from his first marriage all sit for a meeting. However, he also had AddiLee, who was wondering why Emma wouldn't just hurrying and settle into her dirt nap attend. I wasn't there, but Benji's co-worker was the son of Emma and Will's, and when he came back with the story, he was already late with the info because as soon as it went down, Maddie, who knows everybody in there business, had already told me. Maddie, Laverne girl. You were right, AddiLee was lying about being married to Will Harris. And now it is the newest topic since the Will Smith-Chris Rock slap. Missy, I knew it. Even Benji said Will told him once that AddiLee say she is his wife, but hadn't married her and never would. I marveled. Maddie, well you know Will's ex-wife Emma is in last stages of cancer. Well I'd. Will had Emma still on his insurance and it was helping pay Emma's medical bills. She was still his beneficiary. Despite them being divorced, AddiLee found out and cancelled it. Me child say what? Now he can't even pay for hospice care out of pocket. Maddie, well Will was so hurt and disappointed in AddiLee, so he got the family together, including AddiLee, and let the truth set him free. He told them in order to see that Emma is comfortable in her last days, he had remarried her and would be moving back into the house with her. Me hot damn. Then what happened? Maddie, AddiLee shot Will. He is in ICU right now. But that isn't all. Emma heard what happened. She suffered a fatal heart attack. She died 20 minutes later in the same hospital, which Will was now being transferred and air-lighted to Rock Hill Trauma Center. Me, well who has Greg? Maddie, AddiLee. Before Will passed out he instructed everyone to say the person who shot him was a stick-up kid. He didn't want Greg to have to be without either of his parents. So yes, AddiLee had too many skeletons in one crowded graveyard. Yet Will recovered and decided to fight for custody of Greg. Will was now back to work and upon having to wear a colostomy bag, and Emma dying behind AddiLee and her schizophrenic ways, he was done with AddiLee. But although she seemed horrible to everyone, she worshipped her son. And Will knew she would never hurt Greg, so as long as she stayed away from Will, and still let him be in Greg's life, he dropped the custody battle, and dropped AddiLee out of his life.